Okay, I believe recording has started. So I'm going to just give a brief commentary and presentation around data governance and some of the considerations around data governance. As Stephanie said, I'm Robin and I'm the Manager of Engagements at ARDC, but previous to that, I was the Research Data Specialist in Data Governance. So I still have a keen interest in this area of research, in this area for supporting yourselves and various aspects with regards to data governance. So what is data governance? So data governance specifies decisions, rights, and accountabilities for an organization's decision-making about its data. It helps to formalize data policies and procedures, standards, and compliance monitoring. This diagram also highlights some of the key areas when considering data governance, the aspects that could be considered and investigated when you're looking at writing a data governance framework or policy, perhaps. So why should you be interested in data governance? So sensitive data, personal or commercial, can be shared safely and easily with good data governance. Other aspects that are important around the application of data governance are that it helps to support better access to your data. It also helps to support collaborations between yourself and those interested in accessing the data that you have been created. It supports decision-making, making decisions better and more timely. Also, it has effects on risk management. It will enable you to identify potential risks and strategies for resolving those. It helps to support enhanced compliance when it comes to data management requirements. And very importantly, it helps to create greater trust from your stakeholders. By providing such guidance around the management of your data will really help your stakeholders to understand your intentions with regards to your data. So the following slide here really highlights some of the basic considerations for good data governance. These are some of the key areas that I've identified, and these are also areas that are quite prevalent when writing your data governance frameworks. So the first one I've commented on here is related to existing governance practices. So does your organization or those that you're working with who wish to access your data or share data with you, do they have existing data policies or legislations in place? If they do, it's advisable to understand what these policies are and what they entail, as this will support and help in understanding the best practices for data access and data management. Roles and responsibilities are of particular importance when it comes to data governance. Understanding who owns the data, who makes decisions about who can access the data, and for what reason. What responsibilities do data users have to ensure data is used appropriately? It could be seen that maybe you have a single data custodian who is in charge of the data that is part of your project, or maybe you feel that the whole project owns the data. With this in mind, it's important to understand what those responsibilities of that owner of the data are and how those responsibilities can be applied and used when supporting data governance and the access to your data. The next point I have here are data usage and rights. As we all know, licensing is of particular importance and really helps when it comes to sharing and the reuse of your data. So it's really important to understand whether you want to apply a license to your data, and if so, what level of restriction do you want to add? Do you want to make use of the standard CC licensing, Creative Commons, or is there a different licensing technique that needs to be applied to your specific data? And how open do you want to make your data as well through the licensing process? Alternatively, you might take the approach of the application of a data sharing agreement. These are becoming much more prevalent these days, and these tend to be an agreement between yourself and the individual or organization who wish to access your data. Data sharing agreements are very unique to an organization. There is no one single format for a data sharing agreement, and they are very much tailored to the requirements of the organization. And through discussion with the people wanting to access your data, the agreements can be made, and this can help with the controlling the appropriate use of the data. I noticed that one of your questions related to data sharing agreements and the application of the FAIR principles. And I would agree that, yes, FAIR is important to be noted and commented on within data sharing agreements. And you also, in that question, touched upon interaction with the Data Transparency Act and ONDC. Part of my work as the data governance specialist was I worked with the ONDC when they were creating their, their protocol around data sharing agreements and their the notes and the aspects around data sharing agreements. So I reviewed the comments that they had raised and provided feedback on behalf of the ARDC. And the ARDC work with the ONDC, particularly when it comes to the data place software, which is the tool that ONDC have for sharing data and accessing data. I've been working very closely with various organizations in helping them to become accredited as data users. So there's an option to be a data user or a data provider, and the ARDC is supporting organizations become data users, which means that they are accredited and are able to use the ONDC data place tool to access data. So just in summary with that point, licensing and data sharing agreements are of particular importance for data governance. The sensitivity of your data is also relevant. Are individuals identifiable, or is the data commercially or culturally sensitive? This is often the case when data sharing agreements are utilized, because they allow you to give more specification around the use and reuse of the data rather than just a simple license. Also importantly, it's good to understand what risks need to be managed and how. Data storage is also important. What security measures have been applied to the data that you've created and are sharing? And also, where is the data being stored? The location of it. Is it local to your organization? Is it within the computer software and systems you have? Is it external? Also, different states have different rules when it comes to the storage of data and the access of the data. And finally, the last point I've got here is potential reuse of the data. So this is very much where the FAIR principles come in, which have already been touched upon. FAIR is very much looking at the process around the data management side of things and process and protocols. And also included here could be the care principles if you're working with Indigenous data. So this is very much looking at the people aspects of your data, looking at responsibilities and ethics. And once again, it's important the appropriate licensing is applied for the reuse of data. Here are listed a few useful governance-related resources that are being created by the ARDC. You'll be able to access these links once we share the slides. So we have a data governance webpage, and on that page, there are a couple of checklists around data governance and what needs to be considered when you're thinking about governance for your projects or your institution. We also have a research data management rights guide, and I also created a couple of documents around data sharing policies and data sharing agreements to provide guidance on how they would be developed and what would be included in both of those types of documents. And then also just general good data practice, which includes a commentary around FAIR. This is my last slide. So as Stephanie mentioned earlier, ARDC has a lot of expertise within its organization, not just governance and FAIR. So this infographic really highlights the different areas of expertise and areas where we can support you with your data challenges. So it's kind of lumped into kind of subject and themes. So we've got policies and procedures, which is very much where the governance side of things comes in, sensitive data, data retention as key areas. We also have a more technical and systems orientated group who are looking at architectures, data management planning tools. Compute and analysis will help with any issues or questions you might have around research software, and much more prevalent these days around kind of AI and machine learning, which is coming to fruition at the moment. Also, the FAIR data principles, as Kylie will be speaking about after me. So support with making your data findable, commentary on persistent identifiers, which are really important for supporting the management of your data, vocabularies and data licensing questions. And then we also have a skills development team who support with frameworks for skills and development of training materials to support with the extrapolation and sharing of the research and the work that you're doing. So that's everything from myself. Thank you, and happy to try and answer any subsequent questions you might have.